Hi students, my name is Isaac Eskin and I welcome you to today's session. In today's video, I introduce you to number sense, a powerful strategy that is used to tackle mathematical problems. Let's get started. What is number sense? It refers to the ability to understand, relate, and find relationships between numbers. Now, why do we learn number sense? It reduces time spent on calculations during any test. It also encourages multiple ways to approach and solve a problem rather than relying on formulas. Lastly, it lays a strong foundation for topics like algebra, ratios, percentages, and data analysis. Now let's look at this example. Of course, this is a basic one, and the question says, what is 1 minus 5 on 12? Now you want to express 1 as 12 on 12 because when you write it as 12 on 12, it's still 1. Now why do we want to do that? Whenever you have fractions and then you are performing some operations on them, you want both fractions to have the same denominator. So here the goal is to get the same denominator in both fractions. So now that we express 1 as 12 on 12, we can now write 12 on 12 minus 5 on 12. And the final answer is 7 on 12. Now notice that when the denominators of both fractions are the same, it becomes easier to subtract 5 from 12. Now what we are saying is that here, whenever you have the denominators to be the same value or to be equal, then it is easy to just work with the numerators. So here we only subtract 5 from 12, and that is 7. Then we write it over the denominator 12. Now let's consider another example. This question says, what is the value of 3 on 4 plus 1 on 2? Don't forget that always the goal is to make the denominators become the same. You want them to be equal. But notice that 2 is a multiple of 4. Right? So to make both fractions have the same denominator 4, we need to express half as. Now we multiply half by 2 on 2. Of course, 2 on 2 is 1, so nothing has changed. We are just trying to do some proportion so that we can represent half by another number, another fraction. So if we multiply half by 2 on 2, we get 2 on 4. So now our problem becomes 3 on 4 plus 2 on 4. Notice that now in both fractions we have the same denominator. So our focus is on the numerators. We need to add 3 to 2, and that is 5. And the final answer becomes 5 on 4. Alright, let's look at another example where we make use of number sense to solve that problem. Now, example 2, the question says, what is 60% of 30? You don't need a calculator to find this. You don't need to struggle to calculate this. Now ask yourself, it is always easy to find 10% of any number, right? In fact, you just drop a 0, right? So let's say 10% of 40, you just drop a 0 in the 40 and that will give you 4, right? So 10% of 30 here, it is 3. Now notice that we want to find 60%, right? That means 6 times the 10%, and the 10% of 30 gave us 3. So we only need to multiply 3 by 6, and the answer is 18. So this tells us that 60% of 30 is just 18. See how the magic works. Now what about we want to find 40% of 70? We use the same strategy. Now 10% of 70, we drop 1 0, and so we have 7. Now don't forget that we want to find 40%. So if we know 10%, then we need 4 of the 10%, which is 4 multiplying 10%. And that is going to be 4 multiplying 7. That gives us 28. Therefore, 40% of 70 is 28. So you see how we don't use calculators here, but we just use number sense, the relationship between numbers to derive the solution of a problem. That is what number sense is about. We study the relationships between numbers, and then we use those relationships to arrive at the solution of any mathematical problem. What are the key components of number sense? The first one includes estimation. The second one is the place value. We make use of place value. The third one, we do number relationships, so we study the relationships between numbers. The fourth one is comparing and ordering. So we compare numbers and then we order them just to study what is happening between them. The fifth one is mental math, and then the last one is numerical operations. Now I'm going to give you some practice to try them on your own. I have 3 questions on the screen. The first one says, if 10% of a number is 7, what is 60% of it? You want to give a try. The second one says, which one is greater? Is it 48% of 115 or 47% of 114? Then the last problem says a number is increased by 20%, then decreased by 20%. Is the final number greater than, less than, or equal to the original? You want to give a try to these problems and make sure that you put your answers in the comment section. You don't need a formula to be great at math, just number sense and practice. Thank you.